What is up, YouTube? It's your girl Evelyn, and I am back with the Season 4, Episode 3 recap of Wynonna Earp. As always, there will be spoilers, so proceed with caution. The gang is finally back home in Purgatory, but it seems they've jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire. While Doc and Wynonna try to figure out why people are casually being hanged in the middle of town, Chrissy Nedley, daughter of the former Sheriff Nedley, makes her first appearance since Season 1 and demands Wynonna's head. Chrissy accuses Wynonna of murdering her father, who, as you'll remember, was mostly alive when Wynonna left him in the care of Mercedes and took off for Monument. And despite a stunning lack of evidence, Chrissy easily convinces a well-armed militia to help her dole out a little vigilante justice. But moments before Wynonna's public execution, the sheriff shows up and interrupts. Not that sheriff. Or that one. Definitely not that one. Sheriff Claiborne is Purgatory's newest lawman, and he insists that Wynonna must first be given a trial. He then hauls her off to jail, where she's forced to share a cell with Casey, an adorable half-demon who helps fill in some missing gaps. According to Casey, after the town evacuation, hordes of demons began entering the Ghost River Triangle in droves, and by the time the Purgatory residents returned, the demons were already nice and cozy, and even set up a headquarters in the woods, somewhere near the magical staircase. And if that wasn't bad enough, BBD constructed a quarantine around the triangle. Humans are allowed free passage across the border, but demons aren't. Speaking of demons, Doc heads for the Earp homestead to fetch Waverly and Nicole, who have been adjusting to their reunion in very different ways. After last episode's way hot stare bang, Waverly is still floating on Cloud 9, but Nicole has already returned to the ground, and so have her worries. One of which is a huge Bigfoot-esque monster who's been stalking the homestead for months. When Doc shows up, Nicole admits that the last year and a half have been utter chaos. As for the old gang, well, Jeremy's still alive, but he and Nicole have lost touch. And Robin is either dead or missing. It's also becoming clear that Nicole's 18-month stint in Purgatory may have changed her, in some worrying ways. The gang decides the best way to help Wynonna is to secure proof of her innocence, so Doc locates Mercedes, the last person who saw Nedley alive. Unsurprisingly, Mercedes is making a living by masquerading as a vampire stripper at a demon bar called the Glory Hole. Mercedes tells Doc that after Wynonna left, Nedley's crab bite wound became all smelly and oozy, and he eventually took off and headed for the woods. Doc wants Mercedes to testify on Wynonna's behalf, but Mercedes hasn't made it this far by being stupid. She refuses to testify, but she tells Doc that the Bigfoot-esque monster in the woods most likely ate Nedley, and if Doc can locate the monster, maybe he can find proof of Nedley's murder at the monster's hands. Meanwhile, back at the sheriff's station, Waverly has donned her business-casual, red-framed glasses disguise, but it fails at tricking Sheriff Claiborne into believing that she's Wynonna's lawyer. Not that it matters, because moments later, Purgatory's newest magistrate, the vapid but super attractive Cleo, makes her entrance, and in a scene straight out of Idiocracy, Cleo announces a chili cook-off competition where one lucky prisoner will win a get-out-of-jail-free card. Waverly, Wynonna, and Nicole get to work on the chili, and we find out a little more about those mysterious 18 months. Nicole tells them that Cleo literally showed up one day, made herself magistrate, and elected her own sheriff. Nicole would have put up more of a fight, but she had her hands full with protecting the homestead, searching for the gang, and her unanticipated gig as a single mom. In fact, Nicole is so worried about Rachel being eaten by the monster that she leaves the cookout to go check on her. Around that time, Doc finds an abandoned delivery truck full of liquor headed for the Glory Hole. Except something peeled back the roof of the truck's cab and ate the driver. While Doc is contemplating his good fortune, the monster returns to the scene of the crime and goes after Doc. Thankfully, Doc makes it back to the homestead, and Nicole shoots at the monster, temporarily scaring it off. Then, through some deductive reasoning, Doc and Nicole conclude, but the monster is Nedley. Because in Purgatory, being bitten by this turns you into this. Also, Bigfoot Nedley has a serious aversion to kombucha. Meanwhile, back at the chili competition, Cleo declares Wynonna the winner, which seems super sketch, because it is. The magistrate whisks Wynonna away, but instead of freeing her, Cleo takes her into the woods, hogties her, and leaves her as monster food. Cleo stabs Wynonna in the upper leg to lure the monster with the scent of blood. And it works. Thankfully, the gang shows up in the nick of time. Waverly takes Cleo out with her pimp hand, while Nicole and Doc take on Bigfoot Nedley with a rope and a super soaker full of kombucha. And although Cleo gets away, the kombucha somehow cures Nedley.
It's science.
Who has no memory of his people-eating days as a Bigfoot. After the world's longest day, the gang can finally relax. For Doc, this means extorting the owner of the glory hole for access to a liquor delivery he's already paid for. And for Haught, this means getting frisky yet again. Except it's now become clear that Nicole is suffering from PTSD. So instead of making love, Nicole and Waverly patrol the homestead for monsters. And for pop-up character Chrissy Nedley, this means leaving Purgatory, because now that her father's alive, hanging people for his murder is no longer a viable job prospect. At BBD's quarantine checkpoint, Chrissy is stopped by none other than ex-Scooby Gang member Jeremy, who seems to be back on Black Badge's payroll. Chrissy tells Jeremy that Wynonna is back, which is probably why, after walking into the barn, Wynonna is immediately black badged. And that is it for the recap. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more Wynonna Earp, and I'll see you next week.